Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the event information and safety video for this coming weekend's Convict 100. Looking forward to welcoming you all down to St Albans for a great event. Before we get started, I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional custodians upon whose land we will be meeting and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. A couple of things I'd like to touch on before we get into the safety side of the video. Number one is the event program. The event program has been sent to all riders. It's also available on the website under the latest news section. So if you haven't seen it, head to the website and you'll be able to find it there. And it contains all the information you need to know about the event. What time to arrive, how to get here, where the parking areas are, all those sort of things. So make sure you have a good read of the event program before coming down to the event if you haven't already. The other important thing I'd like to touch on early on in this video is the weather. There is going to be rain forecast for St Albans on Friday before the event and into Friday night when a lot of you will be down here camping, and on event day itself. Looking at the forecasts, hopefully we avoid the worst of the weather. It does seem to be more coastal than inland, and we haven't had a lot of rain down at St Albans so far this week. So looking forward to that continuing. But that amount of rain that is forecast won't stop the event going ahead as planned. So just please come prepared, some wet weather gear for when you're on the bike, and maybe some extra equipment if you are camping on the Friday night. Now I'll get into the safety aspects of the video, which is really the core of what we're here for. So we have a 100-kilometre mountain bike course marked out, rating and ready for you. It is a remote location here in St Albans. Mobile coverage is virtually non-existent, so you need to come prepared and mentally ready for the challenge of the event. We see any accidents that do occur during the event are when riders are trying to do something that is above their ability, or when they lose focus, especially when fatigued. So make sure you're riding to your ability and staying focused, especially later on the event when you start to get tired. And what I mean by ride to your ability, if you're not comfortable riding it, if you need to slow down, if you need to stop and get off at points, you want to do that as opposed to trying to tackle something that is outside your ability and you ending up on the floor. As I mentioned, there's 100 kilometres of course, there's 100 kilometres of hazards out there. There are some areas in particular that we have highlighted for you. So you'll see those out on course, you'll see some warning signage. They could say, warning slow down, warning steep descent, all those sort of things. They are there because there is something out of the ordinary that we have identified that could catch you out if you're not aware of it prior to arriving there. So if you see that signage, get on the brakes, start to look ahead, what's coming up, what are they warning me about? There is something there a bit out of the ordinary that we want you to take special care on. If you are riding along and you do come across an injured rider, the first place to look for information about what to do is the back of your race plate. The emergency procedures are listed there on the back of your plate. Might be a good idea before you stick it on your bike for the event is to have a read of that and familiarise yourself with it. It'll basically say you need to stop, render any assistance that you can, send another rider further along the course to the next marshal point or aid station where they'll be able to radio into us, give us the nature of the injury, where it's occurred, and then we can initiate the appropriate first aid response. We have a very big and professional first aid team that will be looking after the event, but doing those couple of things as listed on the back of the race plate will make that job that much easier. The other important safety thing I want to talk about is traffic. There are sections on this course, especially at the start and then at the end, where you will be riding on roads that are open to the general public and could have traffic travelling along them. We are in a very quiet area, so there isn't normally much traffic at all, but there could be some moving around on Saturday during the event. Therefore, whenever you're riding on the road, remember that the road is open, ride in single file, stay to the left. That's going to be especially important from the start. As you leave St Albans itself, and head north on Wollombi Road. It's going to be easy to form big groups of riders. We try to spread out as much as possible, get in the single file, watch for any traffic approaching from the other direction. Some other things I want to talk about. Rubbish is a big one. We want to leave St Albans and the course the same as what we found it. Therefore, take any rubbish you have out on course with you off the course. Don't throw any gel wrappers or anything down on the ground. Take those with you and dispose of them in the bins. There will be plenty of council bins at St Albans, around the campgrounds and things like that. They can fill up. Best thing to do, bring a couple of garbage bags and see if you can't help out the event and the local area by taking your rubbish home with you and disposing of it when you get there. We're also going to ask that you have respect for your other riders. As I mentioned earlier, there will be times where riders will need to get off and walk at different points, steep uphills, some of the more technical section, things like that. If that is you, that is absolutely fine. You certainly won't be the only one. But when you do, and if you are off your bike walking, stay off the riding line so other riders that can ride can continue riding along. Also, if you're riding along and you can sense riders behind you are wanting to get past, stop and let them past. If you're riding along and you come across a rider in front and you would like to get past, just kindly ask them to move aside at the next opportunity, and I'm sure they will do that very quickly. The course has been very heavily marked. Lots of red on white arrows indicating which way to go, red on white wrong way sign saying which way not to go, and pink tape to indicate that you are on the correct course. So whenever you come to a junction where there could be confusion, either look for the arrow or the wrong way sign. Sometimes they could have both, and look for that pink tape indicating this is the track we want you to follow. Thankfully, it is quite an easy course to follow with quite minimal offshoots that could lead you astray. At special points where there could be more confusion, there'll be marshals there as well. So follow the event signage and you'll be back in St Albans after completing your desired distance. There is a cutoff on the 100-kilometre course. So that's after 59.5 kilometres at the bottom of what's called Wrights Creek Road. You need to be there by 1:15 p.m. If you're not back there by 1:15 p.m, and as I said, that's 60 kilometres into the event, you will end up finishing in the dark, and we can't allow that. So make sure you get to that point, that 59.5 kilometre mark, by 1:15. We expect all riders to make that easier. No cut-offs at all on the 48 or 67 kilometre course. If you are on the longer distances and you decide to short course yourself when you're out there, so if you're 167 and you drop down to one of the shorter distances, that is absolutely fine. Just make sure you let the people at the split point know that you're doing that, and when you get across the finish line, so we can make sure you're allocated to the correct course distance. Arriving safely to the event. St Albans is a remote location, as I mentioned. Most of you will be coming across the ferries at Wiseman's to get here. The roads into St Albans are narrow and they are difficult to navigate safely if you are not familiar with them, especially at night. So please ignore the posted speed limit. It's normally listed as 80 kilometres. You need to be travelling a lot slower than that. I'm thinking around 50 to 60 kilometres, especially at night. Travel slowly, travel safely, and arrive at the event safely. Webbs Creek Ferry is one of the ferry options from Wiseman's. That is one of the smaller ferries, so you might find that the queue for the ferry for Wiseman's ferry itself is shorter. Wiseman's is a bigger ferry. Please be aware that after you leave Wiseman's ferry though and come along Settlers Road, there is some roadworks from some flood damage from a couple of years ago that is still being repaired, and so there's a bit of a contraflow through some traffic lights or traffic controllers at that location, so please be patient. So circling back, allow yourself plenty of time to get to the event. You don't want to be rushing on either Friday or most especially on Saturday morning. Allow yourself plenty of time, and as you come across the ferry at Wiseman's and start heading towards St Albans, drive to the conditions, slow down, and if you're travelling at night, keep an eye out for local wildlife. There'll be plenty of it on the roads. That's just about everything. I'm going to finish off with a couple of thank yous. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our event sponsors, without whose support the event would not be possible. They are Mountain Culture, Hawkesbury City Council, Tailwind and Ground Effect. And also some great supporters of the event. St Albans RFS, who are great supporters of the event over the entire history of the event. They'll be out in force, looking after the parking and camping areas, marshalling on the course as well. So keep an eye out for those guys and girls. The team from Crest, they'll be out, and they've been out already setting up all the radio communication, so we have some communication over the course. And also just generally the township of St Albans, who allow us to come here every year, turn their quiet little hamlet into the centre of mountain biking activity in Australia for one weekend. Thanks to all those groups. That's all for now. Enjoy the last couple of days before the big race, and we'll see you on Saturday. Thank you.